So first, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and who you are as an author? What do you like to write about? What are you passionate about writing?
Absolutely. My name is Nicole Baart. I'm the author of 12 novels. I've ghostwritten two, so I guess technically I've written 14 books. Yeah, I've been writing for almost 20 years. I started out in the inspirational market. I was writing contemporary fiction at the time. Wrote four books for Tyndale House out of Chicago. It was a wonderful experience, but I changed as an author, for lack of a better word, and transferred to Howard Books, which is an imprint of Simon and Schuster in New York City. Now I write for Atria Books, and I've been there for the past six. So I have a book coming out on November 4. It's called Where He Left Me. Currently, I'm writing mystery and domestic suspense with a pretty literary edge. Yeah, that's what I write.
And can you tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to teaching at your upcoming workshop?
Yeah. So I am up for anything. My desire is to help up and coming writers. I figure everybody who writes, yeah, you have the potential to publish too. And there's lots of different paths to publication and lots of different ways to do that today. But I would love to be a resource to your community and just be able to answer any questions that you have, talk extensively about what it takes to query and to get your name out there, to plug into the industry. Before I started publishing, I really believed that the publishing industry was an insider's place, that if you didn't know people, if you weren't plugged in, it was pretty much impossible to find your way into that sphere. And I don't necessarily think that's true. And I would love to be able to throw those doors wide open to anybody who is interested in learning more about the publishing industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk to us a little bit about your history. Was there a moment when you realized you wanted to be a writer? Did that evolve over time? How did you decide you wanted to go into this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have wanted to be a writer since I was 5 years old. Sorry, my dogs. Stop
You're
biting.
fine.
Um, I joke that I have a tragic backstory. I had a lot of surgeries when I was a little girl, and back in the 80s when I was in the hospital, they didn't have child life specialists. They didn't have a children's ward. I was with the adults on the main ward when I was having these, yeah, really traumatic experiences of being put under again and again and again. And the only way that I had to cope with it, I didn't have a phone. My parents didn't have a tablet or a computer that we could take along. So my dad, before surgery day, would go and get a bag full of books, and I'd sit on his lap and I'd tent a blanket around me, and we would read, and it took me to a different place. It was escape, it was comfort, it was home to me. The characters became my friends because I was out of school a lot. Yeah, and I fell in love with story. And when I was really little, like in early elementary school, I started writing the story after the book ended. So my dad would read Anne of Green Gables and I would continue the story myself. So I was a little girl, in the 80s and 90s writing fan fiction, and I had no idea that that's what it was. But yeah, I was super passionate about story my whole life. I went to college and didn't really dare to, I don't know, express that desire because writing to me felt a little bit like I want to be a rock star, I want to be a movie star. It was just this unattainable pie in the sky sort of idea that felt very inaccessible to me. So I majored in English literature and became a teacher. I taught high school for several years before I had the opportunity to get 50 pages of my work into the hands of an editor. And I kind of have a bit of a Cinderella story in that she loved it and she bought my first book. And yeah, that's my story.
That's amazing. Yeah. And when you begin a new story, when you're starting to write for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about your process? Do you start with the plot? Do you start with characters? Tell new authors what it maybe looks like to get started for the first time.
Absolutely. It is different for everyone, and it is different for me every single time. Sometimes it's a character, you get this idea of a person, maybe they have a quirk or something about them that's unique, and yeah, I just sit on it and keep playing with that person and that idea and try to figure out what happened to them. In other instances, it's just a moment or an idea. So Where He Left Me, that's coming out in November. Um, That began on a hike in 2022 with my kids. We were in British Columbia. We used to live in BC, and we were on a hike. And I mean, this is something we do all the time. It's one of my favorite pastimes. But we came across an old train track in the middle of this trail that we were on. And my kids thought it was cool, but they moved on. We were on our way to a waterfall. So they wanted to get to the waterfall. But I stayed behind and I took a picture of this train track. It ran perpendicular to the trail we were on, and it just cut into the trees. It was one of these perfect BC mornings where it was misty and wet, and the fog hung in the trees like fabric, like you could reach out and touch it. And it was just this really beautiful, eerie moment. And right after I snapped the picture and I was taking my phone down, I could have sworn there was a person down the tracks. Like one of those just eerie moments. Every hair on my body stood on end. And yeah, kind of a thin place moment where I felt like we're not alone out here. And yeah, that just stayed with me for, yeah, 3 years now. It's been ruminating, and I knew that I wanted to write a book about being out in the wilderness and realizing that you're not alone and what that would feel like. So yeah, the first year is always conceptualizing. So that idea popped into my head in 2022. I started like playing with it and imagining who this character was that saw this and what could possibly happen. And then the second year is the actual drafting. So I'm writing the book. Getting it all down on paper. And then that third year is when I get to turn it into my agent and my editor, and they edit it, put the cover on it, the whole publication process. The sales team gets involved, my publicist and marketing director get involved. And yeah, we put it out into the world.
Yeah. The publishing landscape has changed quite a bit over recent years. What advice would you give emerging authors about finding their voice and audience and getting started into publishing their finished works?
Wow, that is such a tough question. That's a big one. And I want to talk to you guys about it next week. Is it next? Yeah, next week. Um,
Yes.
Yeah, so when I began publishing 20 years ago, I asked my publishing house, do I need a website? Like, should I put together a website for myself and my books? And they told me no. They said, you don't need to do that. If anybody wants to read your books, they're going to come to the publishing house website. So that's where I began. And where I am now is when I have a call with my team, my marketing team, my editor, everybody, we get together and we have these big marketing calls. The first question they ask me is, who is your audience? What are you prepared to do? How are you going to help us? Like, we're going to do these things, but you have to be very involved. Like, yeah, they're publishing hundreds and hundreds of books, if not thousands every year, and you're just one of them. So, how can you invest in that? So, to back up just a little bit, how to begin for people who are just starting out, make peace with social media. I wish that that wasn't the case. I'm not a big social media person. I'm a very private person, and I would love nothing more than to be able to write in private and focus on my craft and not have to worry about that stuff. But if you're a traditionally published author, you're going to be expected to a certain extent to be online, to be accessible to your readers, to be out there promoting your own work, saying, I have this book coming out in 2 weeks and I hope you buy it. Like, it's really exciting. And here's the picture that I took. I put that on my socials last week. Here's the picture that sparked the whole idea. And you're kind of expected to do that. Now, if you're going to publish with an indie publisher, a small press, or you're going to self-publish, that impetus is on you even more. Like, you are going to be even more expected because you are, I'm so sorry, they get wild in the morning.
Okay, don't worry about it.
We're going crazy. But yeah, that is 100% going to be on you because you are the author, you are the marketer, you are the publisher, you're everything. So I'm so sorry. Let me try to calm them down.
You're
Hey,
fine.
knock it off. Yeah, he's looking at me like, I didn't know me.
Yeah. No, you're fine. So, what does your daily writing practice look like? Like for new authors who maybe aren't sure what a healthy amount of writing in a day looks like, how do you keep it sustainable, keep the balance between how much you write and your life outside of writing?
Yeah, so I have 5 kids in a nonprofit organization and just a lot of things going on in my life. I'm incredibly busy. So I feel like if I can do it, so can you. There's room in your calendar for this. You can make it happen. My goal when I'm drafting is to write 1,000 words a day, which might sound like a lot, but it's really not. If you figure a paragraph has, 150 words in it to 250, something like that, it's 4 to 8 paragraphs, a nice chunk, and that's 1,000 words, and you're done. So to do the math on that, if you write 1,000 words a day, 5 days a week, in 10 weeks, you've got 50,000 words. Like it goes pretty quickly. You could pretty easily write a book in a year. I think the one thing that I had to learn as I grew and developed as an author is I can't be precious about those words. I can't sit there and think, oh, this sentence isn't quite perfect, or I don't love how this came out. Like it, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter. Get it down. And once it's down, you can go back to it and you can change it and you can make it better. But in the beginning, you were just putting the bones together, like you're getting the structure out there. And I think you can hammer that out in your margin space. Like I write in the car. I'm writing a scene in my head. I write when I'm cooking. I write when I'm vacuuming or when I'm taking the dogs for a walk. There's just a lot of time for me to be thinking about it so that when I do finally sit down, those words come fairly easily.
One of the goals of the Ames Writers Collective is to create community through the art of writing. Have there been people or supporters along your journey that have helped you develop your writing?
Oh, so many. It takes a village, you guys. It takes an entire community plugging into you. The ideas are yours, the story is yours, and yet if we wrote in a vacuum, if we just wrote for ourselves, it wouldn't be what it is. Like I can write a story that's just for me and never share it with anybody else, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I am trying to have a conversation with a broader audience to engage with my readers, to talk about the story and the characters and what it brings out in us and how it changes our thoughts and perspectives and our ideas about life. Like I want it to be a conversation. So in order for that to happen, I have to invite people in. And that's a really tricky thing to do because when we write, we feel a little bit like this is my baby. This is this precious thing that I did, and I don't want anybody to stomp on it. I don't want them to say it's bad or I should have done better here. It's a really hurtful thing to do sometimes. But to be humble enough to be able to offer that to other people and hear what they have to say and invite them into the process is just it is enrich a word. Yeah, enrich. Sorry, every once in a while I get ahead of what I'm saying and my brain stops working, but enrich doesn't sound right. But it yeah, enriches your work. It makes it so much better. So people who have really come alongside me and invested in me are in the very beginning of my writing career, my coworker, I was teaching at the time, and the gentleman who had the classroom next to me was around my father's age, and he was like a father figure to me. And I remember going to him for the very first time and saying, Todd, I'm writing this book. Like, would you take a look at it for me? And he did, and he proved to be so kind but truthful and just an honest critique partner that walked me through that process with a lot of grace and a lot of integrity. And he pre-edited my first 4 books before an editor ever saw them. So he was just influential in my life. And I've had many other people along the road that have done that. Um, but then the other person that I would be remiss not to mention is William Kent Kruger. I don't know if you've know him or if you've read his books. He wrote Ordinary Grace and the Cork O'Connor series. It's like a long, I think there's maybe 20 books, maybe more than that. But he has been a mentor to me and just such a kind guide and a friend. And yeah, plugging the writing community is filled with people who love books, who love words and want to read your book. Like I feel that way about every author that I work with or rising author, someone who hasn't been published yet. I want to read your book. I want to see it on the shelf. I want to be able to buy it and come to your signing. And I love to read. That's why I got into this. So I think you'll find the writing community is incredibly encouraging and filled with people who want you to succeed.
Is there any other last advice you'd give to new or aspiring writers?
Mm. come to all of these things. And I'm not just talking about my event, but get as invested and involved as you possibly can in the writing community. Learn as much as you can. I've been writing for 20 years and I teach classes on this. Like I have a course that I do. And yet my favorite thing to do is learn from other people. Like I take master classes, I go to conferences, I sit and I refine myself and my writing every chance that I get. And I just encourage you to do that, to plug into that community and take advantage of every opportunity that you have to make yourself a better writer.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Those are all the questions that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to working with you and for this upcoming workshop. And yeah, thank you so much for the time that you were able to spend for this interview.
Thank you, Acacia. It was so great to meet you. I appreciate your time.